In my last video, I shared with you how to build a straight brick stitch band. For this new video, I want to go back to one of the projects I showed you earlier, where we have a central bead and then basically have concentric rows of additional brick stitch beads being placed on top of it until you finally have a round fabric rather than a straight one. And so in order to do that, first of all, I need to prepare my focal bead, my central bead. And I do this by basically stitching through the bead for 3 times. So for the first time, I'm going through and basically fastening this loop, and then I'm going to go through again, fastening this loop, and then I go through a 3rd time to come out at the top. I need those 2 threads going around the outside of the bead because they're going to be my anchor. So for the first row, I'm going to pick up 2 beads for the first set that I'm going to stitch in place. I'm going to go under my anchor thread and then basically go back up through one of the beads. Doesn't matter which one, they'll just flip so that this bead is basically the direction in which I'm going. For the rest of the beads, I just pick up a single one. Again, I'm stitching underneath my anchor, coming back out, and go back up through the bead. And now I have my 3rd bead stitched in place. There we go. You can already see that it's starting to get round. Take a 4th. Again, under the anchor and up through the bead. And I can probably switch one more thing in right there. So I'm going to fasten another bead to this side of my anchor thread. And back up out. And now I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the other side. So I'm going to have to make sure that this is opposite. And once you stitch beads to them, they will start sitting on opposite sides because the bead will start to separate them. Sometimes they kind of flip over to the same side if you go through. So just make sure they kind of form a circle around your central bead. So fasten another black one right there. And another one and let's complete the circle. Probably maybe 2, maybe 3 more. You kind of have to eyeball it with this particular stitch because depending on the bead sizes you're using, you may need more or less, and it doesn't really matter as long as you don't over or under stitch. If you over stitch, eventually you're going to start getting a ripple effect because you're trying to squeeze too many beads into little a space. If you understitch, it's going to start to close and become kind of like a cone rather than lying flat. So you don't want that either. So right now it looks like I'm probably going to be okay with 1 more bead. Put that in place. Go back up. And so now I want to stitch the circle closed, and I'll do that because I need another anchor right here in between those 2 beads by simply going in through the one bead, pull tight and out the other. And there you have it. That's my first row. And you can see, just as I did with the previous straight brick stitch, I now have anchor threads on top of each of the beads that are sitting there. And that's where I'm going to fasten my next row. And so for this, again, I start with 2 beads. You always start your new row with 2 beads. Go through my anchor. Go out one of the beads. Again, it doesn't matter which one of the 2. And I'm going to pick up another one and go probably through the anchor one more time, because again I want to expand. So this row is going to have more beads on it than my previous black row. Pick up another blue. Now I'm going to go through the next anchor thread, up through the bead, And I'm probably going to be okay with moving on to the next anchor. So again, some of the anchors will hold 1 bead, some of the anchors will hold 2 beads. Really, the only thing to keep in mind is don't overstuff your row so you don't start getting ripples, and don't understuff it either, because that way you're going to start getting a cone shape rather than your pattern lying flat. All right. So pick up my next one. And I'm probably going to move on to the next one. This is probably going to take 2 beads again. So I'm going to remain flat rather than getting all ripply. There's a second one in there. Going through. And another one. And of course you don't have to use oval beads either. You can use round beads, in which case you're going to get really round rather than slightly oval type bead rounds. Let's give this a second one as well. And another one. Right now for this row, the only thing I varied was the color. Of course, you can also vary the bead size. So you could stitch the first row with really small beads and then take maybe size 11s. And you could also use different bead shapes. Like in the product I showed you, there were seed beads and triangle beads. And so you can really mix it up and play with all of the different shapes and sizes and forms that you have. So now I've completed this circle, and again I'm going to go up through my first blue bead and back out through my last blue bead. And then if I was going to continue this, I could start picking up my next row and again working my way around, and you can see we definitely have more blue beads in our row here than we had black beads in the first row. And whatever next row is going to happen, we're going to have an even greater number. So just keep expanding, different sizes, different colors. Again, show you here, you know, we started with really small beads here. These are 15s, 2 rows of 15s. Then we had some triangle beads, and we had some size 11s, some more triangle beads, and then finish up with a couple more size 15s. And of course, you don't have to stop here. You can make those really big. You can make a fascinator for your hair. You could make several pieces that would actually form a chunky bracelet. You could make a brooch with it. You could make a pendant. So it's super versatile, and basically just the limit is your own imagination. And that is circular brick stitch.